Welcome back to Inside the Kentucky Derby as we're moving along here on the road to the Kentucky Derby after this weekend's Lecomte Stakes. And the one thing that is certain after the Lecomte is Track Phantom keeps rolling along too, as he now won 2 of Fairgrounds Road to the Derby series down there. He'll head over to the Risen Star to try and get his way to the first Saturday in May after going wire to wire in Saturday's Lecomte. Well, we're here to talk that and all that and more here on Inside the Kentucky Derby on this Monday. Kevin Kirstein, Darren Rogers, and Darren, Track Phantom keeps improving in every single start.
He really does, KK. We thought that in the preview podcast, talking about it being a 2-horse race, and it was just that. I'll tell you what, it was a little different. We did see more speed from Nash, who, by the way, Track Phantom was favored all the way until the horses were, kind of loading into the gate. A lot of the late money came in on Nash, knocked him down to the even money favorite. Track Phantom went off at 7-5. And, we got more speed from Nash like we thought we would from the previous start. Nash went right to the front Track Phantom went right to the front from the outside. But Nash was breaking from post 1, Track Phantom in post 6. And that kind of forced Nash to kind of throttle back a little bit, to get together on the outside of Track Phantom. And that was leaving the first turn, and they went in 24 seconds. Track Phantom was a length in front almost throughout the race, unpressured, rattled off 12s, went the half in 24. The first quarter in 24 with a length advantage over Nash, went the half in 48. Nash cut the margin to about a half length midway around the turn, with just under 3 furlongs to go. But, Track Phantom's ears were pricked, KK. He was ready to roll. Rosario hadn't moved a muscle at that point. They went 6 furlongs in 1:13. And that's where at the top of the stretch, Rosario, kind of tossed the reins at Track Phantom, and he just spurted clear. Nash chased on, as did 27-1 long shot Lat Long, who kind of tracked all the way from 3rd and 4th. And then you had Ethan Energy, who also tracked from 3rd and 4th. But he was outrun late. Perhaps it was that 28-day kind of quick turnaround for that Barnes standpoint off a big figure, maybe the lack of experience. Maybe he's just not fast enough, but he was well back and forth at odds of 7-2. So it was kind of how we thought it would be. We weren't certain which one of the two was best, but Track Phantom, unpressured all the way, continued to improve and run fast. That was a very nice time, 1:44 and 73. Now it was slower than, we'll talk about Hall of Fame, who debuted or not in his second start earlier in the card, went 1:44 and 27. So that was, 46 100ths faster than Track Phantom. And then you can measure it on the race before, Saudi Crown, who is a very, very good older horse, who's going to go to the Saudi Cup. He prepped for that race, and he wired the field in 1:43 and 20. So a full second faster than Track Phantom, but that should have been the case, right? Yeah, he's that good of a horse.
About 5 lengths, and that's about probably what he was better, Saudi Crown, than Track Phantom was on Saturday. And you really recapped it and said it right there, with everything in the race. And, the thing that I think is going to rain home on me leading up to the Risen Star is just how Track Phantom has improved every 30 days in these races. And his speed figures have spoken. So just him physically on the track. And so even though, I was a bit surprised out of the gate, how hustled he was out of the gate. 'Cause I was thinking, okay, Nash is going to go from that inside post. And he didn't.
There's that cough.
There it is. So I thought Nash was going to go, and I thought Track Phantom would sit on his hip, and that's what we talked about, and It was the opposite.
He forced him. He's forced his hand a little bit, right?
Yeah.
So he went to him from the outside, put that pressure on him, and forced him. When I say him, Nash, gonna just take back just a tick. Not urge him. Wait for Track Phantom to clear, and that was not what I envisioned. I envisioned the complete opposite.
Right. And it's not to say that I don't think Track Phantom can maybe sit off of a horse. He's very fast out of the gate. He did go 24 seconds, but if there's a horse who's, gung-ho on making the early lead and going 23, I can't see a reason at this stage that Track Phantom has showed that he can't sit off, because it wasn't running off down the backstretch.
Totally agree.
He was clipping 12-second eighth miles. And so, he's going along at a very steady pace. So I foresee...
That was relaxed, wasn't it?
Sure
on the
was.
lead and in smooth, in stride. I'm with you. I see no reason he can't relax off the pace.
I'm just such a fan of... There's a Derby out there with Steve Asmussen's name on it, right? He became a half a length from Epicenter winning the Kentucky Derby, and he's been so close, and it could be this horse. It could be Hall of Fame in the beginning part of the card on Saturday at Fairgrounds, but he just does a phenomenal job of not only keeping his dirt horses in form as a 3-year-old, 2-year-old to 3-year-old year, but even as they move to older horses.
Didn't we see that at one point with Epicenter where he was forward all along? Now with accruing a total of 30 points, which puts him number 2 behind Fierceness with 30 points overall. They're both tied at the top, and the earnings separates the two. But he's comfortable with 30 points. So now you can do whatever you want with him. You just got to kind of hit the top 4, in these next 2 starts, you'd imagine. But we saw it with Epicenter, who was always forward throughout the early stages of his 3-year-old season. I believe he won the Risen Star, and then coming back in the Louisiana Derby, Asmussen had the luxury of, let's make this an education race. Yep. I believe he broke down on the inside. Let's take back track from third. It's not something I envisioned, because on paper, Epicenter looked so clear that day in the Louisiana Derby, but he used it as an educational tool. So don't be surprised if you see that with Track Phantom in his next 2 starts.
Yeah, absolutely. And you might see it in the Risen Star. You might see it in the Louisiana Derby. You might see it in both. I never like to put myself in a Hall of Fame trainer's head to say what he would do, but Steve has said, on record the other day at Fairgrounds, just, saying how much he appreciates the progression in distances that the Fairgrounds Road to the Derby series does, because now you're going to the 1 1/8 in the Risen Star in a month. Then after that, 1 3/16 to the 1 1/4 Kentucky Derby. Asmussen was quoted in saying, he said, "It's easy to compare where he is at with what we did with Epicenter 2 years ago. Epicenter won the Gun Runner and was second in the Lecomte. But physically, he was developing at the right time. I've always felt in the 3-year-old series at Fairgrounds, your last race isn't as good enough for the next one, and that's how it should be. I appreciate the timing between races and the progression of distances. It's ideal. We came up a half length short of our goal with winning the Derby with Epicenter, and now Track Phantom is on the same road. I think the Lecomte was an easy on him as you could have wanted it to be, with him still getting something out of it." And so that's from Hall of Famer Steve Asmussen on his newest, one of the favorites on the road to the Kentucky Derby. I don't want to say the favorite, because we still have Fierceness looming, who's going to run in the Holy Bull. But as the progression goes at this stage, I am very excited to see what Track Phantom can do in the next 14 weeks leading up to the first Saturday in May. Also runs in that race, Darren. I mean, Nash, Brad Cox has said he's going to probably point for an allowance event, maybe on Risen Star Day. He's done that before, and maybe get him back on the road to the Kentucky Derby, but he just simply didn't have an excuse, and I think needs to get better. And then all the ones that finished 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th, I think are just the same thing, that they need to get better to even get on Track Phantom's level.
Yeah, Nash might need a confidence builder, so I could understand that route. The comp since 1980 has produced 38 runners in the Kentucky Derby. 2 have won, 4 have run second in the Derby, and 1 was third. The 2 winners, of course, War Emblem way back in 2002, but Mandaloun in 2021. Now, we all know Mandaloun was kissed into the victory with the disqualification of Medina Spirit, but Mandaloun was one of those horses that kind of needed that confidence builder after having a puzzling effort down at Fairgrounds. He just trained fabulously coming into that Kentucky Derby when he ran second at 26-1 that day and was later promoted to victory. So I can see that with Nash. I'm not giving up on him just yet, but I'm sure not as keen as I once was. And Lat Long, I thought that was a very nice run at 27-1. We thought, really, we thought it was a 2-horse race for third between, Ethan Energy and Lat Long. Gave the edge, to Lat Long because we thought he'd be a price. It's funny, those Kenny McPeak horses just do not seem to get respect. We'll talk about the Kentucky Derby future wager in a bit, but Lat Long is the longest, despite running third, and it was a well-beaten third in there, 4.5 lengths. But this horse is, improving. The races will get a little longer. Maybe this horse can stumble into something. He too needs a little bit of a drop down. He's more of the B teamer at this stage, but he is progressing nicely, and he closed it 222-1 in the Kentucky Derby future wager, the longest of the 38 individual betting interests, which just surprising to me, coming off of a decent third compared to that.
Right. And he got points, and Kenny McPeak is not going to give up on this horse. And he said that on record. Kenny said that, we're going to try and get him there. Don't know how we're going to get him there, but we're going to try. And, you're right. Maybe with the B teamers, where he goes with this horse is still to be determined. But again, this was his first start against, horses that have won races. He broke his maiden last time out. And so, I think that was the toughest group that he's faced, and he will continue to face tougher as the races go on. Ethan Energy, maybe you're right, a little bit too quick. Tizzy Indy just needs to get better, and then Can Group, I'd assume that we're going to see him back on the turf for the Cassie Camp after that one.
Yeah, worth a try. It's a gamble. I imagine Can Group will return to the grass. Tizzy Indy did come running, just narrowly lost that photo for fourth. But again, far back. Look, you're probably going to see this horse again just because Calumet Farm likes to participate on the road to the Kentucky Derby, but he needs to get much, much faster.
Let's talk Hall of Fame.
Boy, we got a couple of horses that we kind of tipped off in the preview podcast that were running in undercard races, and Hall of Fame, was what, a $1.4 million purchase for Coolmore. I can't recall any other horse that Asmussen has trained for the Coolmore camp. Of course, this is a son of gun runner, so it makes sense that they sent him to Steve. But this was his second start of his career after running second behind a Wind Rider in his debut, going 7 furlongs on closing weekend at Churchill Downs, actually on closing day. And anyway, Hall of Fame. I mean, he broke from post 3. He was away just okay.
Yeah,
right. He's not like real fast from the gate, but he's forward enough. So that's a good sign. Anytime you can put your horse into a forward position. And he sat third going into the first turn as Funny Flame was leading the way, followed by, Ride for Soul. They went in 23-1. Hall of Fame was within a half length of Funny Flame from the inside at the half. They went in 46-3. Hall of Fame poked his head in front from down on the inside rail after 3 quarters in 111-2. I like the way that he raced down on the inside. That gave a horse a little experience being tucked down there on the rail with pressure on not pressure. He was relaxed half length off the lead of the leader, but on the way he was in competition early from down on the inside. When they got to the top of the stretch, Rosario just kind of shook the reins and Hall of Fame strided out, and he had one right-handed tap on his shoulder, or actually on his hip at about the 8th pole, and then he just cruised home by 10 1/4 lengths. Again, that was just his second start, 144-1, which was 46 100ths faster. Now that went as race 5. Of course, the Lecomte went as race 13. So the track can change over the course of the day, between, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. The Lecomte went off around 7-ish. So it's a 4-hour period. It's tough to say, but that was definitely, he's going to be interesting competition because they're both going to be geared and pointed towards the Risen Star, it sounds.
Yeah, it's interesting to see what this Risen Star is going to end up shaping up to be, because we've talked about it now, and a lot of horses are, making their, it's not in stone, but they're saying they're going to the Risen Star. Sierra Leone, who we've talked about, is targeting the Risen Stars. His first start as a 3-year-old is owned by the Coolmore Group, as is Hall of Fame. And so now Steve Asmussen said that Hall of Fame could be targeting the Risen Star as well. So we may see some separation there. Typically, the Coolmore Group doesn't like to run their horses against one another at on this stage if they don't have to. So we might see some separation there. But yeah, Hall of Fame. The only thing that I'm going to knock about this race is just the level of competition. I don't know.
I agree.
So even though he did draw away by 10 lengths, the level of competition could be subpar, and that's why that winning margin was as inflated as it was. But
that time was fast.
It was a fast time, and he did it professionally.
Yeah.
So,
yep. That's the separator. For me, whenever you have those question marks on the competition, you better show it in the final time.
Right.
You better show it in that speed figure. And I thought he did that.
It was good to see Keith Asmussen in the winner's circle for that race too, who Oaklawn wasn't running. Steve's sons, Keith and Eric, are both now jockeys. Keith has worked this horse several times at Churchill Downs out of the gate, and he's even been paired up with his brother Eric in some of those works. And so it was good to see the Asmussen family celebrating Hall of Fame, because Keith is a big part of the progression of this horse, especially over the summertime and into the fall here at Churchill Downs.
Just 28 minutes later, out on the West Coast, in the opener at Santa Anita, we kind of tipped off a horse to keep an eye on, Maymoon. Now, Maymoon, do you know what Maymoon means in Arabic?
I don't.
It means showing signs of future success. And it couldn't have been more true. By the way, in Turkish, it means monkey.
Oh,
so
interesting.
Huh. Either way, but he didn't run like a monkey.
Yeah.
He sure ran like the Arabic's definition of showing signs of future success, of course, owned by Zidane Racing Stables, who had Medina Spirit. Bob Baffert trains. They gave $900,000 for this horse. A little late in the game in his debut, going 6.5 furlongs, and broke from post 2 at 4 to 5. He was away fine forward, as was Tessuto to his inside. Maymoon, went a length clear in 21-3. He opened up 2 lengths on the turn after a half in 43-4. You had McVeigh, All That Glory, Tessuto. They were chasing. The others were far back, and Juan Hernandez dropped his hands at the top of the stretch, very much like the other 2 races. When they dropped their hands, they shook the reins, and then Maymoon just kicked clear. He had 2 taps on his right shoulder just to keep him interested. His ears were pricked. He was geared down. He won by 7.5 in 1:15-2. That was important. He maintained that margin on the gallop out. The only question I have, very impressed. I mean, got a strong speed figure. The only question I have is the distance. He's obviously late in the game. He's a son of Frosted out of an Indian Charlie mare. I'm not certain, as I am with the other Baffert horses too. Like Muth has obviously proven it 1 1/16. I'm not convinced he wants to go further. Nisos to me looks like a sprinter, but Maymoon, I think, he's developed into that mention of those big 3 for the Baffert horses. They, of course, in order to be eligible to qualify points on the road to the Kentucky Derby, they must be transferred to another trainer by January the 29th. That's the day of the Triple Crown nomination closing. And, if any years past is an indication for the last 2 years, a majority of the horses have been transferred to Tim Yakteen. Some horses have been scattered elsewhere, but the serious horses have stayed out on the West Coast at Santa Anita with Tim Yakteen. So let's just monitor Maymoon along with Hall of Fame. Those are 2 new horses that have entered this road to the Kentucky Derby conversation.
It's just so interesting to me, just looking at, this horse being purchased for $900,000 is by Frosted, who doesn't stand for a whole lot. I think he stands for 10,000. The mare is like a 15-year-old mare, hasn't really produced much, and still brings $900,000 for this horse. And so, beyond just the distance limitations, there's not a whole lot of black type maybe in that pedigree on both sides, the top and the bottom, that maybe this horse will break the mold there, but we'll have to wait and see.
Now, next week on the road to the Kentucky Derby, the Southwest at Oaklawn Park, a Grade 3 event for $800,000 going a mile and a 16th. It's now been moved to February the 3rd because of the winter weather. Well, why was it moved so soon? Not knowing this weekend's weather forecast. Well, it's pretty simple. The track's been frozen down there in Hot Springs, Arkansas for the last week plus, and horsemen have been unable to train their horses. So to move the race to February the 3rd, which will join the lineup of the Holy Bull, the Bob Lewis, the Withers, that'll be one heck of a day. We have no races next week on the road to the Kentucky Derby, but we do have a couple of maiden special weights on Saturday as we record this on Monday afternoon, just around 1:00 that, we've already drawn at Gulfstream Park and at Fairgrounds, and both of them are the second race at both events. The second race at Gulfstream on Saturday, which is, the big Pegasus Invitational Day, there is a 7 furlong maiden special weight for 3-year-olds. They're late in the game. The horse that drew the 2-hole Batten Down, that's a foal to Tacitus, who won the 2019 Tampa Bay Derby and the Wood Memorial. Bill Mott trains the horse for Judd Mott Farms.
Right?
Well, Tacitus, he's a 3-time Grade 2 winner, and he was common in the Grade 1s on not just one continent, multiple continents. If you can't tell, I needed Tacitus in the 2019 Travers Stakes, along with the Jim Dandy. The Jim Dandy, he broke poorly, got outrun, thought he'd romp in the Travers. But yes, thank you for bringing home the memories of that second. Multiple second place finishes.
You mentioned Tacitus. I can't help but bring up your.
I say he's common on multiple continents. But anyway, Batten Down, we'll see. Yes. He can be better than common in this heat. There's another interesting horse in here, Rapid Gray. He's got experience. He's the 3-1, or no, he's not the second choice. Sorry about that. But it's a horse with experience for Mark Cassie and Gary Barber. This is a half to 2010 Pocahontas winner, Dancing in Her Dreams. You remember that sprinter for, I think it was John Ward? Was it John Ward? Oh, I think it was one of John Ward's last.
And it was an Oxley, right?
Yes. I think it was one of the last big horses they had. But there's a number of horses in here. Pletcher's got one, a Constitution breaking from the rail, Speakeasy for Arad Ortiz. He's got another one breaking from the 3-post that they gave $600,000 for the Lowe's. The horse's name is My True Colors. It's the son of Munnings. Probably suggests sprint. Shug McGahee, who has come around with a couple of horses on the road to the Kentucky Derby. What is it? Change of Command and the other seahorse. Give me 1 second, just because controlling something. I should know because I think he took a lot of money on the road to the Kentucky Derby. I keep thinking future wager.
I keep thinking change,
which was Conquest Warrior.
Yes,
Conquest Warrior, who was 18-1 after breaking his maiden. Shug's got another one in here that's worth taking a look. Corporate Power, a son of Curlin out of a quality road mare, so that's very well bred. And anyway, it's a real interesting heat. And then at Fairgrounds, race 2, they're going 6 furlongs, and they've got the morning line odds out here. Just a touch, 5-2 will not be 5-2. This son of Justify, we've seen the workouts, by the way, on if you go to KentuckyBred.org or Bruno with the Works. This is a horse that shows a ton of promise. It's a son of Justify out of a Tappet mare, Touching Beauty. 2 workouts out of the gate. The one on December 30th, 4 furlongs and 47-3, came back with another gate workout on January the 14th, 5/8 and 59-2. The workmates needed hugs following the works. But this horse looks like it could be a special one for Brad Cox. They're 14 weeks out of the Kentucky Derby. It's late in the game. Justify was one of a kind while breaking his maiden in 2018 and I think it was February the 18th. This will take place on January the 27th. They're late in the game, but you think about if you have a horse that impressively breaks its maiden, you come back in 5 weeks. That would put you at the 9-week mark. And then you could come back, 4 or 5 weeks in advance of the Kentucky Derby. It's not impossible to make the race. Now, you'd only have, 3 races under your belt, but Just a Touch is a type of horse I think to work on. One horse in there with the experience is I know a horse very close to you. KK ran second last time out to Doncho for Michelle Lovell. That race came back very fast.
Mm-hmm.
He was beaten 5 lengths, but Evan on Earth is a Foldabango.
Yep. Foldabango hasn't proven that he's as good as his older brother yet, but this is a fun race. If I could book 5-2 on Just a Touch right now, I'd take my whole bank account plus some and try and get that price. But
Asmussen's got one in here too.
He does.
1.7 million for Gun Party, who is a Curland out of Karina Mia, who was very good.
Yes, she was.
So 3 Chimney Farms and Winchell Thoroughbreds have partnered with this. Brian Hernandez is up. But this is going to be a very, very interesting couple of races on Saturday to occupy your time without any points races.
And you make your, the point of, it's not too late. They are behind the 8 ball. So this race going 6 furlongs and the race at Gulfstream going 7 furlongs. So not around 2 turns. So maybe you see a first level allowance. They come back and win that race. Then they can go in a race like the Bluegrass, the Wood, or the Santa Anita Derby on that.
Take the one shot deal.
Take the one shot and they're in. And if they, don't progress there or they don't go to that first level allowance or behind the 8 ball, there's plenty of other races on the docket for horses like this, but this is definitely one to keep an eye on Saturday down at Fairgrounds.
Kentucky Derby Future Wager Pool 3 closed on Sunday. Boy, they are betting with both hands this year.
Yeah.
Betting is up 30% from last year through the same stage. And, all other Colts and Geldings, actually all of the 3-year-olds from the 2021 full crop closed as the 2-1 favorite. So you get all those Baffert horses that we talked about because they haven't been transferred yet. You get a horse like a Hall of Fame added to it. There's some interesting, horses that were not included that you're getting at a payoff. For every $2, you'll get back $6.88. The individual favorite, of course, was Fierceness, the Breeders' Cup Juvenile winner, who is likely to be crowned the champion. Not likely, will be crowned the champion 2-year-old from last year at Thursday night's Eclipse Awards. He remains on target for Todd Pletcher to make his debut in the $250,000 Holy Bull. That's 1.16 on February the 3rd. Reading Todd's comments between the lines, he's speaking very glowingly. I mean, you'd expect that of when you have a champion colt, but it's very, Todd seems to think this, the reading between the lines from my interpretation, this horse has gotten faster and better.
Yeah.
It's progressed very nicely from 2 to 3. So I'm encouraged and looking forward to seeing him return. Sierra Leone was the 3rd choice at 13-1, followed by Dornoch, the Fulda Mage, 15-1. Get that sounder. Here we go. And then we had a trio of horses at 18-1, which were locked. The Breeders' Cup Juvenile 3rd. You had Conquest Warrior, the horse that I need to remember his name for Shug McGahee because he was a very impressive recent Gulfstream Park maiden winner. And then you had the Gun Runner and Lecomte winner Track Phantom settling in at 18-1. Were there any horses out there, KK, that
I got down on 4 of them.
Okay, which ones did you get down on? Because I had 3 that I thought were of decent value.
I got Liberal Arts at 72.
Okay.
And then the other ones are big time prices. Stretch Rod I got at 95. Okay. Real Men Violin 123 and Stronghold at 204.
Okay. Neither of the 3 that I thought, but I thought Ari's Magic at 74-1 was an interesting gamble. I thought Deterministic at 107-1 was interesting. And then I was, what was my other one? I had one other one that ended up in the 50 range as I flipped through it. 1 second. Oh, I thought Sneed at 69-1 was a good price in there. The other horse that I thought, it surprised me, didn't take as much money as I thought was Born Noble at 41-1.
Yeah, I thought that horse was going to take a little bit more money, just, has the page of an impressive Pletcher maiden winner, but, didn't as much.
I've got a sweet 17 at this point. I wish I wanted it to be a sweet 16, but I couldn't leave one horse out. But these are the 17 horses in no particular order. Well, there is a particular order. It's alphabetical.
Okay, good.
That I think are the most intriguing and or fastest at this stage.
Okay.
And that would be Ari's Magic, Born Noble, Conquest Warrior, Deterministic, Fierceness, the Japanese horse Forever Young. I'm adding Hall of Fame, Honor Marie. I'm adding Just a Touch, who runs and debuts
I like that.
next Saturday. Knightsbridge, I'm interested by him. Locked, Maymon, keeping Nash in there.
Okay.
Sierra Leone, Sneed, Timberlake, and Track Phantom.
Wow.
Those would be my sweet 17.
Is the Derby?
And I don't want to make, is the Derby winner on there? I think so.
Yeah.
I think so.
I'm trying to think.
The others are going to have to get a lot faster to join one of those, that cast, in my opinion. And I've got some horses in there that I think can take a step forward, into that cast. I mean, look, when I have Aries Magic in there,
yeah,
I mean, these are the ones. Okay, hold on, 17. So let's look at the number that we have to step forward and get faster. Aries Magic.
Yep.
Deterministic. Forever Young's kind of the wild card, right?
You don't know,
but I mean, he's 3 for 3. Visually, he looks very impressive to me. Just a Touch, who's a first-time starter. Knightsbridge has to move forward. I would say, it's about it. I mean, the others are what they are. I could throw, maybe we do like Survivor. I could throw one off the island each week from here on out.
It's just,
I could tell you who, like, some of the first ones I'd throw out.
Right. At this stage, to me, it's so difficult because so many of these horses, and there's some on your list that haven't made starts as 3-year-olds. So we don't know if they were the fastest kids on the playground running those fast figures at 2 against that type of competition. Coming back as 3-year-olds, they could take a complete regression where they were at 2. So there's just some question marks there, like a Knightsbridge or a Parchment Party, Sierra Leone. Yep. They showed promise at 2. They haven't made a debut yet. And so that's why it's fun at this stage to sort of pick out a Fab 17.
And then look for value within the future wager. I mean, I'm not a big fan of doing top 10 lists on the Derby right now because you're committed to it, right? Once you pick one horse, it's almost like you're glued to it, no matter what its run is. A great example is Nash. I mean, if you asked me last fall who my Derby horse would be, I probably would have taken Nash, right? And he might be one of the first ones I throw off the island because I think I know what he is now. We've seen the races. Maybe he gets better. Maybe he continues on. I don't know. But anyway, it's interesting. Love this road. This weekend will be 14 weeks out. Coming up on Thursday will be 100 days from Kentucky Derby 150. It's an exciting time of year.
Yeah, I mean, just think of your 17 you gave there. And it at this stage, I think it's solid to have 17 horses. And I'd probably throw a couple more on that list. And so maybe, between 20 and 25 horses that are showing real promise on leading up to the first Saturday May at this stage. Because sometimes you just see the Breeders' Cup Juvenile winner, and then that's the headliner compared to everyone else. Yep. And right now, leading up to Derby 150, there's a really good cast of 3-year-olds that are out there.
At this time last year, did we think the Breeders' Cup Juvenile wouldn't be a key race?
Yeah.
And it turns out it was not really a productive race at all.
No.
I think it is this year. I do. But anyway, you hear it as I see it.
I love it. Anyway, as we mentioned, no Southwest this weekend, so the podcast will take a little bit of a layoff. We'll be back to preview a jam-packed weekend next Thursday. So be sure.
A week from Thursday. Like and subscribe, and so that way, once you hit the subscribe button, that'll pop right up to whatever podcast app that you listen to. I'm a Spotify guy. It'll pop right up on your playlist if you subscribe as soon as
we get the download up there and we get the podcast wrapped up, you'll be able to listen to it as soon as we are.
I'm an Apple guy. Please give us 5 apples, 5 stars for our 3.5 star performance today. Subscribe, tell your friends, and share the podcast on your social media platforms.
And your voice still needs some Woodford Reserve with honey.
I thought I'd get. I do have I have a coughing story. We'll wind this down as I do need Woodford Reserve with honey, but I did buy the cough drops.
Okay.
The
Woodford Reserve cough drops?
No, I wish. The Ricolas that I sat on the middle of the kitchen counter and they were unwrapped.
Oh, no.
I took 3 with me as I was going somewhere on Saturday. Just put them in the pocket, sucked on a couple of them. They work. Get home that night and the bag's gone.
Huh.
My lovely 13-year-old golden retriever managed to get up on the counter and got into the bag of cough drops. So I'm once again empty-handed and left now with nothing but Woodford Reserve.
Oh, and
There's your segue.
And Mark Bacon, if you're listening, Woodford Reserve cough drops could be the next greatest thing.
That would be outstanding.
Down at the Brown-Forman, Corporation. But Woodford Reserve, 200 flavor notes are in every single sip. Woodford Reserve, of course, is our great friends and couldn't do this podcast without them. And on that note, we'll be back next week to talk all things on the road to the Kentucky Derby. Until then, make sure you hit that deposit button early and often on your Twin Spires account. Good luck.